Hello everyone, I'll produce a couple of videos today to address the remainder of Cobley, and I'll begin in the first one by just covering the questions that were raised in the previous video. So I'll just run through those in full sequence. As you know, Cobley over pages 211 to 29 is interested in the way in which narrative studies have developed since 2000. And really he's looked at a couple of contexts in particular. The first one is cognitive and the second is social scientific. So my question one was, what term was coined in Herman 1997 to identify these various developments? The answer is post-classical narratology. The social dimension in the context of disability and resolution studies nonetheless has attracted some criticism, for instance in Patterson's 2008 publication. So my question two was, what argument does he level against Leboff's sociolinguistic analysis of narrative? And the answer is that it is event-centric, Cobley also deals with the question of narrative and its importance for medical diagnostics and recuperation. So my question three asked, what narrative forms do Smith and Sparks in their 2005 publication discuss in this particular field? And the two narrative types are quest narrative and restitution narrative. So quest narrative and restitution narrative. Cobley goes on to consider the way in which inmates in the state of incarceration tend to regard themselves as wrongly accused. So the fact that their own beliefs issue at contradiction in relation to the documentary consequences of trial. What dichotomy, says question four, is proposed in Eliot 2005 to maintain an appropriate distinction between belief and factual reporting? And Eliot says, yes, you need to distinguish between first and second order narratives. So that was the answer that was appropriate to question four. So four more questions. Cobley was interested in the way in which identity formation could be determined by narrative as a kind of schemata or template for defined rule-based action. Fludenik in 1996, in question five, identifies five possible frames, and I asked what they were. So the five frames are action, telling, experiencing, viewing and reflecting. So five frames overall: action, telling, experiencing, viewing and reflecting, proposed in Fludenik's publication 1996. The question about then the human agent's desire to find reasons for acting could be grounded in as elemental a stage as basic sense data, the impressions that bombard us every day through sight, sound, touch, taste, smell. Susan Klein, in two publications, 2006, 2007, says that two terms are particularly central in this respect. So question six asked what they were, and the answer should be empathy and sympathy. Nonetheless, the impression that those two terms might overdetermine the nature of what we expect from narrative and perhaps also erode the fundamental distinctions encoded within narrative could be seen as a problem. So question seven asked, how does Hutto, in his publication of 2008, advance a principle of beneficial social action? What term is identified as marking out beneficial social action through narrative? And the answer was folk psychology. So the last question, question eight, I asked, does Cobley overall view the contemporary attempt to link such arguments to a Darwinist evolutionary thesis as a conservative or a progressive tendency, a conservative or a progressive standpoint. And in the end, he believes that the desire to see this as an evolutionary outcome in neo-Darwinist terms is itself a conservative impulse, and that perhaps it should be critiqued. So he sees this as conservative rather than progressive. So there are the answers to the questions. What I'm going to do now is move on to a second video which will cover the remainder of Cobley. So I'll say farewell at this point, and then I'll be uploading both of the videos, and there'll be questions to answer by probably something like 1 or 2 p.m. on Monday. Okay, so video 2, I'll get around to making that now, and I'll be posting both of them later today. That's Friday. Okay.